Good evening. About a month ago, we went to the ICA in Boston. We walked into this room with a giant world map, a piece called Woven Chronicles. The map had wire, string, and computer chips connecting two different locations, almost like a flight destination map. It was a pretty profound piece about the difficulties of immigration. And as I stood there looking at the piece, I began to get slightly distracted by people who would go up in front of it to take selfies. At first, I wasn't too bothered by it, but then things went awry. I watched as people got closer and closer and closer to it, until one of them dropped her bag directly on the piece. And that is when I lost my shit.
And then this is a trick you learn in the industry. Okay, what are we going to do toast to?
To white fur.
To white fur.
Should we fluff up this?
Let's
I
fluff
keep
it.
smoothing it down. Maybe that'll look more fun.
I think
Maybe,
so. Oh, look, it does look more fun. Jeez.
The selfie as we know it began to take off in the early 2000s with the popularization of image-based social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram. Smartphone creators, figuring that this was going to be a very profitable trend, started making phones with increasingly powerful cameras that made it easier and more fun to quickly snap, edit, and share photos with your social circle. Soon after, celebrities began to capitalize on this phenomenon, using social media and self-taken candid pictures to present a more accessible and relatable image to their fans. Old people grumbled about it, of course, but very quickly, people realized something about the selfie that changed the way social media operated. The selfie wasn't just a fun way to share your life with people. It was, above all, marketable.
Selfies make money.
They do. Selfies make a lot of money, or they can make a lot of money. Not everyone's, though. Yours doesn't.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Personal brand has existed for as long as there have been public figures, which is to say, forever. If you paid any attention in history class, you'll probably have some recollection that certain kings and queens would strive to be known to their people as populists, or reformers, or just. It's a similar concept now, only it's become common for non-celebrities to have them as well. But going back to talking about celebrities and influencers, at some point in the late 2010s, it became cool for them to not just be branded as beautiful and relatable, but also to be intellectual, politically active, and well-versed in pop culture. That meant for a lot of them being interested in art. Not just in collecting art, but being seen at art events and being friends with artists. We'll call these qualities art lover identifiers. And what better way to prove that you're into art than to take a selfie with an artist at the opening of their newest exhibition? So given that there's a whole generation of people who are interested in branding themselves a la Kylie Jenner or Bella Hadid, there's a whole generation of people who are interested in branding themselves as art lovers, which, as we'll discuss later, is good and bad. But it's important to note that a crucial part of this branding is the art selfie.
Generally, we can divide people's motivations for taking art selfies into two categories. The first is intrinsic. This is the kind of motivation where something is internally rewarding to you. For instance, if I was at an art gallery and there was a piece about bacon that really spoke to my soul, I might be motivated by the quality of the piece, so much so that I want to share it with the world so that others can have their souls moved by bacon as well. The second is extrinsic. This is when people are motivated not by the reward of the thing that they are doing, but instead by the outcome that the thing will bring. For instance, if I saw a piece about bacon on the wall that I wasn't into, but I know that my followers like bacon, I take the picture to pander to my audience and also gain positive recognition for my association with said piece. I am motivated to share the content because of how I will be socially reinforced, not because the content itself is meaningful to me. It's very likely that any given action will have elements of both motivational categories. I might really like the art piece of bacon, and I might also be excited to get praise for being associated with this art. So why then is being associated with art something people value? Other than just being appealing for the raw aesthetics of it, good art often pushes the boundaries of what is culturally permissible. In part, it has to do with being on the cutting edge and sending a message that you are on the edge too. In the Western world, individualism and standing out are often aspirational values. This might be especially true within the digital spaces of Facebook and Instagram, where differentiating yourself in an appealing way often leads to more likes and validation. And there are worse things, in my opinion, than taking selfies at a museum to be valued for. For instance, you could be taking selfies of dead bodies in the Japanese suicide forest, or video yourself committing a prank in which you claim to have the coronavirus on a plane before takeoff. In the world of shallow self-promotion, taking selfies at art museums is not that bad of a form of impression management, even if some of us might see it as cringy or less tasteful. But why do people often feel like doing this is cringy, tasteless, or just plain wrong?
The fuck? Where? In any case, there seem to be many reasons why people continue this ancient process of taking so-called selfies. But in my journey, I have begun to wonder why these things cause people so much despair. Join me as I talk to two experts who have spent decades studying this phenomenon.
No. No. Stop. Jesus Christ.
I think it's important to note that for a lot of people who do this, a selfie is above all a type of self-glorification, if not self-promotion. And obvious self-promotion is nearly always repugnant to people. Additionally, if you buy into the idea that selfies are a type of media analogous to the painted self-portraits of Rembrandt or Picasso, you might get the impression that by taking a museum selfie, someone's trying to elevate their own self-portrait to the level of museum artwork. Now, does anyone really consciously believe this? Doubtful. But I think plenty of people do still view selfies as a reflection of someone's self-importance. Not every art exhibit necessarily makes some kind of grand social statement, but the art exhibits that make it into museums usually do. And on social media, which is largely a wokeness contest, your personal branding needs to communicate that you're cooler and woker than some other bitch. So when people take selfies at art museums with the purpose of posting them to social media, there's an implication of lack of engagement with the art itself. You're there for the purpose of taking a photo to prove how cool and or woke you are, not to experience the art and to think critically about what it means. It's not that uncommon at hot art exhibits or other tourist attractions to see some people moving from one installation to another just to snap photos, only looking at the actual art long enough to see what would make the nicest picture.
Now, making social justice and art appreciation cool is not necessarily a bad thing. Many of the things I was originally into as a kid were for shallow reasons. But those initial impressions led to further exploration and understanding. For instance, I thought playing the drums was cool because I liked the way my neighbor looked when he played, and now I have a much deeper appreciation of it.
On a related note, taking selfies at an exhibit or work that's dedicated to discussing a social problem, particularly in the context of marginalized communities or identities, makes it seem like you're trying to get credit for doing some kind of education or activism, without actually doing the work. It's very much like the equivalent of loudly claiming to love drag queens, when we all know you're married to a man who owns a conservative publication that supports conversion therapy. Megan.
My father.
Megan's on The View, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's The View
Yeah.
with Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
I am John McCain's daughter.
If you, like us, have been to a popular art exhibit on a crowded day, you've probably seen this. Someone who so badly wants a good photo that they spend 10 minutes or more in front of one installation, trying out different poses, touching the art itself despite the signs, barriers, common sense, etc., and just completely blocking the view of the other people in the room who are just trying to view the installation. What's more, their photographer friend is in some extremely inconvenient position on the floor, not looking at where they are or where they're going, bumping into other people and objects without care. This is kind of self-explanatory. Other people paid the same damn entrance fee that you did and have every right to enjoy and experience the exhibit without having to contend with your desperate attempts at social relevance. Please have some social awareness about your position in space.
To some, it might signify a loss of a particular cultural norm, another encroachment of technology on traditional social spaces. In the same way, some might feel upset when the self-checkout counters replace human workers.
This might seem like an okay boomer type of situation, but as someone who experiences furious anger when they move the Brussels sprouts to a different place in the supermarket the next week, I really relate to the feelings that come with a loss of familiarity. Let's just admit it. When you think of people who take selfies in art museums, chances are you're thinking of women, particularly young women. And boy, do people love to shit on women for daring to promote themselves as sexual or aesthetically appealing beings, or for being happy with themselves and wanting to share that, or for showing their face in a public space. Truly one of the most pernicious forms of socially acceptable misogyny. So yeah, as shitty as it is, one reason why people hate art museum selfies is just because they resent that women can exist and enjoy things and get attention without them playing a part in it. I look forward to your comments. So it's likely a combination of things that causes people to judge and dislike this process. It's not necessarily bad to be upset by some of these points, upset that your old culture is dying or the destruction of the very thing you're there to see. However, some of these reasons for hating museum selfies and the people who take them are simply not good. It's easy to make negative judgments about the character of people who do things we don't like, but the truth is that it's hard to get away from wanting social capital, especially when it's currently so valuable. Doing relatively harmless things that get you that social capital does not necessarily make you a bad person, or a shallow one, or a thought. And we shouldn't have to explain why it's wrong and stupid to hate women for promoting themselves as sexual or aesthetic beings. It's 2020. So many other people have made great media about why incels are wrong and why policing women's actions is just gross. We don't need to rehash that in this video. What's more, if you just think about it a little bit, museum selfies aren't just a negative phenomenon. The popularity of these selfies also implies something else: the popularity of museums, galleries, and art exhibits, things that are classically underfunded and underattended, at least by the general public. If people see these selfies and are inspired to go look at this art for themselves, if only to take their own pictures, isn't increased awareness and more money going to museums and galleries still overall a good thing? My favorite K-pop group, BTS, are also by default some of the world's most effective influencers. Their leader, RM, Kim Namjoon, is known for taking photos with various art installations that he likes, causing a phenomenon where many fans will also go visit these locations to take selfies in similar poses. BTS's influence in the art world has become so well regarded that they have embarked on a collaborative project called Connect BTS, where they have commissioned renowned artists to create large-scale installations in major cities across the globe. Part of why this project is even possible is that these artists and these cities know that these installations are guaranteed to draw in fans, increase exposure to the artists and their work, and draw tourism money. Definitive proof that the art selfie does in fact have tremendous cultural and economic impact.
In summary, there are hundreds of billions of selfies that are moving around the vast digital cosmos of the internet at this very moment. Some of those selfies were taken in front of art for both wholesome and unwholesome reasons. And only time will tell if future generations will see these selfies as brilliant works of art for their time, or as unoriginal fucking garbage.
So please like.
Oh,
We didn't really rehearse that.
tell me what you're gonna
Okay.
do.
So if you really like
I
this
thought you
video,
just like forgot what you were gonna say.
well, that's likely too. So if you like this video, please touch the like button, tap the like button, squeeze the like button.
If you want to see more videos like this one, please like, comment, and subscribe to Bling Theory. Thank you.